Welcome to this episode of Sexuality After. I'm really excited about this episode because I have my husband with me, Neil, and I am talking to the couple that makes the podcast Sex, Lies, and Parenthood, Rachel and Mark. So it's kind of a couple-to-couple conversation, which I haven't done on my podcast before, and it's going to be really fun. So welcome.
Yay, we have a first.
This is a first time.
I love a first. We're popping cherries already. I love it.
Already with the sexual references.
It was there.
Yeah. Neil, you're my first. Or Gemini.
Awesome. Never been with a Capricorn.
I've never been with a Gemini, I don't think. Not that I've ever asked, but
that's not something on his checkoff list.
Yes, I'm with you.
What's your sign?
Yeah. I also have no idea. I would love to hear from you guys. Just a bit about you and what you do. Why did you start this podcast and why Sex, Lies, and Parenthood?
I was in radio and I was a producer, so I only had limited airtime and I have so much more to say. And our lives became a huge part of the radio show. And we had a huge following. When I left, I quit to be more present as a mother. I just felt like as a working mom my whole life, my whole children's lives, I wasn't there for them. And so we just came to this period of time in quarantine where I thought, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I have to be home with my kids. So when I quit, we still had people contacting us. Like, what are you guys up to? What's going on? We want to still know about your lives. Mm-hmm. And so I had watched Oprah, 20 years ago, and she had said something about sex, lies, and motherhood. And it stayed in my brain forever. And someone else owned Sex, Lies, and Motherhood. So I was like, well, let's just do Sex, Lies, and Parenthood. We're very sexually open. So it just kind of worked. And so I said, we may not be 100% ready for this, but let's just do it. We're a shit show. I think that's what people like about us is that we're not perfect.
Yeah.
And we just, he'll say, can you edit that? And I just keep that in. I'm like, no, we're not editing anything.
I was surprised with the turnout because I'm very I don't know.
He's modest. And he's a carpenter. He doesn't come from this life.
We have more in common already.
I'm not like when somebody's asked me for an autograph before, I was like, I'd rather just go have a beer with you,
right?
Or let's go have a shot, or let's go drink some Crown or something. Like, let's go do something. It was just weird.
Yeah, I've been in entertainment forever, so it's just it seemed
opposites.
Right.
So
and with podcasting, it just makes it so easy. Whether people are listening or not, it doesn't really matter. We get feedback that people love it and that they're listening and they like that we're just normal and real.
And my self-esteem is shit. So it's to do this, I'm like, and you guys when we get feedback and they're asking about me or saying they enjoyed it, I'm like, okay, somebody really does want to hear me talk for some reason. I don't know why, but okay, if you like it, then sure, we'll go with it.
So we just realized we had more to say. Yeah. And here we are.
That's amazing. I mean, people love normal.
Yes. People love shit shows.
We have 13 years of a cult following, so it's like
I'm a train wreck.
Well keep going, right?
But that's the thing. As soon as I embraced it, because I think in the very early stages of having children, I tried to be perfect mom.
Yeah.
And I was making myself insane. Do you know what I mean? Like the dishes and the laundry and the housekeeping and keeping them happy and everybody else happy. I was miserable.
She was manic.
So totally manic, like doing circles around the house because, with little kids, it's constant. You clean up and you got to clean up after they clean up. It was like, I can't do this anymore. So when I finally got to a point of, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to do it anymore. And nothing happened. Like the house didn't burn down. He didn't love me any less. The kids didn't care. I was like, oh, okay. So I was putting pressure on myself because I was trying to live up to this societal standard of the perfect mom. Yeah. And when I realized there is no such thing as perfect and you'll never get there. there is never an end to like this beautiful, perfect.
She tries to reach to her mom's standards, and her mom's
My mom's amazing.
as close to perfect as you can
Right.
get. And,
but she also spent most of her time working and cleaning and doing all those things and not being with us. She wasn't present. And so I had that moment of, I can't keep doing this anymore. My kids are going to remember a mom who was folding clothes and wasn't there when we wanted to watch a movie because she was doing something else. So I wanted to just be more present and realized that so the pile of dishes is there tomorrow. Nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. So my house is a mess. It's fine. It's all right. So that's where we're at now, where I'm just more comfortable with who I am. And I think there's a lot more moms and dads that can relate to that.
Absolutely. Yeah. In the social media world, where we see people's
perfect lives. They're amazing gray and white kitchens with their marble countertops with all the shit pushed in the corner, but they're not showing that.
Yeah, what they're not showing is, well, things that I know because I'm the contractor that put that kitchen in, is like what the rest of the house looks like. That's
right.
a picture after I just got finished with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I've listened to a couple of your guys' podcasts. The two that
Uh-oh.
I listened to yesterday were you guys arguing in the car on your way back from your road trip.
Yes, because he didn't get a roadie.
Yeah, and then also the poop stains in the toilet. I was like, these guys. It's just, I don't know. It's so refreshing to hear people just being normal and human, and it's
well, I think honestly, TikTok has helped me a lot. Are you like a do you watch TikTok?
Yeah, we are TikTokers.
Okay.
Well,
it's not just dancing. I'm trying to tell everybody.
Oh yeah, we're only consumers. That's true. Yeah.
So I'm working on being a creator. We're consumers right now.
No, I do not have TikTok.
You watch over my shoulder to pretend like you're not into it. The only time I can
spend time with my wife is like fall down the TikTok rabbit hole with her.
But the way the algorithm works, it's very specific towards my life. And so when you see other people dealing with the same stuff, you really don't feel so alone anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's not as scary to say, like, why am I the only one that has to clean the shit stains? Like, why?
It's always nice to know you're not the only one.
Right. So it's helped me. Like, who needs therapy when you have TikTok?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I follow this one lady who's like, let me feel better about your house by going.
Oh, I love her. Emily, I think is her name. Yes.
Oh, no.
I love her.
But yeah.
She's got it memorized.
Well, because she did it well. It was like a thought in my head to do that. And then when she came up on my page one day and she did it and so perfectly, it was like, I don't need to copy that ever. Like she's got it. She's got it. She's got it. She's perfect.
Yeah.
So
cool. And what was kind of the main driving force kind of behind Sex Lives and Parenthood? Like, other than let's just continue on, like, what do you kind of want to offer people? Is it just the human everyday, we're just a normal couple living a normal life kind of connection?
I think because we're so open with our sex lives and where we've each come from, that I'm hoping people learn how to communicate, because a lot of our episodes are about communication. Mm-hmm. What do you do when he has a low sex drive or I have the low sex drive and you're not talking about it or trying to solve what the problem is? A lot of people, that's when they cheat, when you have that lull, because our relationships ebb and flow. It'll never always be perfect, right? Yeah. And a lot of times I feel like in that ebb is when people start to stray because they want attention from somewhere else. And so with us, we had that period of time, and it may happen again, I don't know, but we were open about it. We communicated, we talked. And so what we try to do is teach people how to have that conversation. So I would say to him, hey, when this happened to us, how did you feel? What was going through your head? And what was the end result in that situation? And so with our ebb was we were going to separate. I was just depressed. I had gained a ton of weight. I didn't want to have sex anymore. Like, I was just out of it. I'm like, I was done.
And I was tired of trying to help, because you can only try to help so much. And then you're like, you know what? If this is how you want to live, then have at it. But I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm tapping out. I'm done. you're affecting the way I'm feeling every day now, and that's a problem. If I can't be happy because you want to lay around and do nothing all day, I can't support that anymore. I'm done.
And then we've talked about depression and what that means, et cetera.
Right.
So we've been very open about that part of our lives and how people can communicate through it instead of looking for attention elsewhere. Because the thing I had said to him is, fine separating, sleep downstairs, I'll sleep upstairs, whatever you want to do. But before you look towards another woman or finding other women, give me that same exact attention you would give to her. Plan a date, flirt with me, whatever it is that you would be doing to try to get another woman or being a suitor, do it to me first.
Yeah.
Well,
do it with me first.
Yeah,
Give me that attention.
that
And then
wasn't
let's
really
see.
the issue with the relationship of why I was leaving, though. It was more or less what she
Right.
was
That
doing
wasn't
with
your
her
situation.
life.
That was my reason. Though.
Right.
So, and it kind of helped of like putting more positive attention on it. And it sort of got us out of that,
Being
the-
able to
the
talk
rut.
about it too, just being able to come to her with my feelings and telling her I'm not in love with you anymore, it was a very hard discussion to have. So, but you just kind of you gotta rip the Band-Aid off. I waited and I waited and I waited, and then I'm like, I can't do this to either one of us anymore. I have to, I got to do this. So,
Well, I think a lot of people who
Yeah.
cheat almost feel like it's harder to have that conversation of like, this is what's going through my mind.
Mhm.
But we explain to people, how much harder is it to say I cheated? Do you know what I mean? Like
Right.
that conversation's way harder than this, like, hey, I
Mhm.
have to be honest with what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So our whole goal is really just to get couples to be more honest with each other
Nice.
and have that open line of communication of, she's not going to freak out. He's not going to freak out. This is just how I'm feeling right now. Can you hear that?
And one of the other reasons I wanted to do this was, well, first I'm nervous to do it at all, but when I was at work and I ran into one of my clients, realized who I was, and that my wife and I were on the radio at one point in time, and she's like, "Oh my God, you and your wife helped me so much with, me and my husband's sex life," and I was like, and it's like, and this was before before we started doing the podcast.
Yeah.
So, and this is when we started talking about it, and I was like, if we're really helping people, then I'm down.
Exactly.
So,
Cool.
we're not licensed or anything. But,
That's what I say all the
mean?
time. Like we
Like
know
you
nothing.
said, it's just real people talking, and we're able to just say whatever we feel at the time we feel it, and we discuss it later. If it hurt somebody's feelings, we'll talk about it, and then we'll talk about why one of us said it, or so.
Yeah. I
Pretty
think a lot
open.
of times people don't say something because they don't want to hurt the other person's feelings, or because they want to keep the peace or people please their partner. But in the long run, it's just way worse to not say something.
Yeah.
I know with us, something I love about our relationship is that we've kind of agreed that we value honesty more than peace.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So like the level of argument, the amount of arguments that we have would be too high for some of my other friends, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But we're really close because of it. And we talk about awkward and uncomfortable things because of it. And we're in a really solid place because of it, I think. And I value honesty more than peace.
Did that start when you guys first met? Did you have to come to a place of this understanding?
No, we started as friends. We were friends for a long time, and we talked about everything as friends. And so
Yeah.
I think it just carried over into our relationship. What do you think? Do you see it the same way?
Because was it easier to communicate as friends and then keep it open in that way as husband and wife?
Well, it got complicated real quick, but
Who made the first move?
me. That was very awkward, but yeah, it was.
So when you made the first move, let me ask you this question, because this is something that's bothered me in the beginning of our relationship. You knew potentially that she could either reject you right? Or say, yes, I like you too. Let's continue this relationship. But you took the chance, right?
Yeah.
Or did you know what the outcome would be?
I had literally no idea, and the outcome was even less expected than what I thought.
Well, hang on. What was your question about that? Like, how did he do that? Or
Well, when you're friends, and especially for a guy, you don't want to be rejected. I don't think anybody wants to be rejected. So regardless, whoever's going to take that leap from friendship to relationship, you're taking a chance, right? Because whatever he's about to say, if he's going to kiss you or say, I like you more than this, he's about to change the fundamentals of the relationship.
yeah,
So with us, who said I love you first was that moment for us, where we were just having sex. It was just about sex. And then we had a moment where I wanted him to take the chance and say, I love you first.
yeah.
I wanted him to, regardless of the outcome, be confident enough to say, this is how I'm feeling about you. And he couldn't do it.
Mm-mm.
He
There
was
was a
too
lot of, I
scared.
love being with you.
He loved everything except I love you.
Yeah.
I love spending time with you. So Neil, to take that chance, because obviously you couldn't live with her just as a friend, but you're also taking a chance of living without her possibly if she didn't share those feelings.
Yes. It was a little more awkward because we weren't just friends. I was her client for like 6 years.
Oh, goodness.
And so we would see each other every like 4 or 5 weeks on a regular basis because Phoebe's a massage therapist.
Mhm.
And we would have these really like deep, intense conversations about like anything and everything. But I just thought that was because I'm a bit of an open book, and I just figured Phoebe was like that naturally.
Mhm.
And I figured she had these conversations with all her clients. I had no idea that there was anything different about the nature of our conversations. And like, you know, as her client, everything was like totally professional. And then it just kind of grew into, you know, more of a friendship. We started getting to like we would have such good conversations during the massage session that like afterwards we would want to continue the conversation, and that kind of organically evolved into like texting each other thoughts, you know, a week after the massage. One of us would like, I just thought about this thing about that conversation. And then it kind of grew out of there. And then we were sending each other voice notes on WhatsApp for like months, like hour-long voice notes. It was crazy. And so it was weird because it was like we had just become friends. It wasn't like we were long-term friends and I was
Mhm.
jeopardizing
I
a
got
friendship. It
Got
was more
it.
like I might lose my massage therapist that I really
Right.
And I know how important that is.
frankly, good massage therapists are harder to find than friends.
Yes.
It's 100% true. He's got one that I call his second wife.
She goes, oh, you want to go see Molly?
Molly.
Like, yep. Like,
So then, okay, here's a question. Massage therapists, it's a very hands-on job, right? If you had feelings for her, how did you stop yourself from physically reacting in that scenario?
It was never an issue. I think it just I don't know. We had these really deep intellectual conversations.
you
there
had
was
more of a
no-
connection with her
Mhm.
than
there was
so it
no. Yeah, that's interesting. You know, also like I wasn't in my like early 20s, or I wasn't a teenager where like
Right.
the
Right.
slightest thought.
I-
could-
Also,
Like
like,
the wind blows and you get a hard
I
on.
get it too, though, because I used to worry about that too. But there's something, especially with a good massage therapist, the last thing on your mind is
Yeah,
sex,
sex.
because
No, no.
you're melted and you're just like,
Feels
like,
like
Well,
Yeah.
actually, generally, I'm usually in a lot of pain.
yeah.
So
Right.
That's
That
what
is-
like I do deep tissue, so
yes, I get deep, very
not
deep,
like a-
deep tissue.
It hurts.
It relaxes me.
So then, Phoebe, did you cut him off as a client at a certain point in time?
no.
When did he start getting free massages?
No, there was like, well,
When we started dating?
yeah, there was like at the point that we started dating, it was like, okay, patient client relationship.
Right.
And I haven't paid for a massage since.
Yeah.
Not that I don't still get them, but that's very
Mhm.
different.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
It's not a professional relationship.
Yeah.
It's also made slightly awkward that the reason we met was because my ex-girlfriend was a massage therapist who hired Phoebe to come give us massages.
Awkward. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful.
So, like, yeah.
This is only on my it's not a very messy story, but they did break up like 2 years before we ever started.
Oh, well, more than that. It was like 5.
Oh, okay.
But I think what Rachel was going to ask is like, how did you have the courage to ask me or to tell me that you were in love with me?
I don't think, this is funny. I heard something the other day that somebody said on a podcast, and I was like, oh, I know what that's like. And this is like one of those situations. I don't think it was that I had the courage. Like, it wasn't a courageous thing from my perspective. I was literally more afraid of not doing it.
Yay.
Oh, okay.
I
Like,
love that.
was scarier. Like, I was very conscious that there could be, you know, an outcome that I didn't want, that maybe she wouldn't be interested. I had no idea. But I think at the time I was even still sort of dating somebody else. And I was like halfway
And I was
interested
sort of
in
dating
that.
somebody else.
Yeah. And like, and I remember dating this, she was a very nice girl, but you know, I was dating with her and I'm spending time with her, and I would get like a voice note on my phone from Phoebe, and like, my brain was like, it's in Phoebe mode now. And I was like, I have to figure this out because this is consuming me. I have to find out if there's something there. And if not, I have to move the heck on. So turned out that, yeah, the feeling was mutual.
It worked out.
Well, turning red now.
not exactly.
Wow.
Yeah,
But
it was complicated and messy. I had just decided that day with my therapist at the time to go on a 90-day hiatus from romantic relationships.
Oh my God.
The same day.
Oh my God.
So it didn't last 90 days, but I don't know. It's just it was all a very complicated situation.
So yeah, it was one of those situations where people want to hear that it was like the fairy tale thing where I stepped up and was like, so I like you. And I, you know, and yeah, that was what I did. And then the answer I got back was like, well, I kind of like you too, but I'm doing this thing where
I know
people
you have to
for
wait 90 days.
And I'm like, what day did this start? And she's like, today. And I'm like,
but she would have been worth the wait if she still went through with it.
oh, for sure. Yeah.
Well, and the anticipation.
How long did it last?
About 30.
Wow.
Damn.
15?
Somewhere between them.
15.
About 2 weeks.
We'll say 2 weeks.
It was a really long 2 weeks.
2 hours.
But anticipation is the best
as it
part.
took him to drive over to my house.
Yeah.
Because that's anticipation, I think, is something you miss as a married couple because you're never going to get that first again, right? And so that's something that we try to do is how do we get that same feeling in this now established marriage? How do you get that anticipation of something?
I think some like Neil misses that more than I do as well. Like I think it's overrated. I like being more comfortable
right
with him, and first things are rarely my favorite. Like I think it gets better with time, but
yeah, it does. But there's the uniqueness of the first experience of something new, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
They only ever get that once.
The butterflies, the nervousness, the awkwardness,
right.
This is an argument we have.
But we just no, I know.
So it sounds like you guys don't have arguments. You guys are just passionate about certain things, and you have discussions.
Passionate discussions.
I have passionate discussions. I'm passionate about this.
But that's kind of where the roadie came in. Was something I had never done. I had never given him oral to completion. And so to have a first in 13 years is a huge deal.
Totally.
And mind you, I was coming off of relationships where it was constant.
Women were throwing themselves at him, Phoebe. I mean,
not even in a conceited way,
dick
but
in their mouth.
I just mean literally. It was.
Couldn't wait.
I
tried to explain to him not all women want balls in their face. He doesn't believe me.
The couple I met, they didn't mind it. So
Yes.
but
So
I was
we
just
still
used
have
to,
firsts.
I was used to a certain. Well, the problem is when you get with most of the women who are more promiscuous, I guess would be the right way to say it,
Comfortable with
or
their bodies and
comfortable with
sexuality.
sexuality, they're also crazy as shit. So it's like you got to find that
Not
happy
all.
balance where they're good in bed but not too crazy outside of the bedroom.
I don't even think it's good in bed. They're confident in their bodies and pleasure and wanting pleasure. And I have that.
Yes.
All my stress is in my jaw. I'm just not great at it. I'm just not.
See-
I'm fine to admit that.
Yeah, and I've learned to live with it, and I don't
We work
push,
around it.
I don't pressure her for it.
Rachel, that's what your hands are for.
She doesn't do that either. Her hands hurt
Double
too.
action goes a long way with John.
I'm a lazy lover.
She's very lazy.
I believe I'm a queen. I believe I was a queen in a past life and had many men and women. So I'm just there to be pleased.
Yeah. So
I'm working on it.
I get stuck with here's 35 seconds. Like I tried.
Like do 2 minutes. Let's say 2 minutes.
Maybe. She goes as far as to telling friends of hers that she's looking to
outsource your
my
blowjobs.
blowjobs.
I wouldn't mind
I
that.
was like, oh god. Okay.
We're working on it. Taking applications now.
Casting
Love to see that
calls.
on the
Casting calls.
Oh, geez.
Oops.
Funny. What have you guys found to be the most challenging thing about sex as a parent? And you think about that too.
Trying to I like to be loud and boisterous and be into the moment, and trying to do it with trying to be in the moment without being able to be in the moment.
When it's at night and they're sleeping and we're both actually not exhausted and we can do it, we still can't be ourselves, right? I like being loud. Being loud actually makes me even more in my body, I guess. I can feel it more. I don't know why.
It's not that like
it's a thing, Rachel.
It is really a thing.
Like
I should probably Google it later.
There's a thing to having to be quiet once in a while. Like
that's we're sneaking.
We're on vacation and the whole family's in the house. We got to be quiet. That's it's different from when you have to do it all the time.
Yeah.
You're like, God, and I can't get anywhere without. And then she doesn't like being loud in a hotel.
No,
I'd
rather just be in
to us, and I'm like,
my goal is a kid-free house. Like someone else take the children, and because I love my house, I love our bed, everything. Everything you need is there.
Like you said, more comfortable, right?
Right. So in a hotel, I'm worried the whole time about oh my God, we're going to be that couple on Instagram or Twitter with somebody next door. The couple next to us is fucking so loud.
That is the goal.
That's totally the goal.
Yeah. You want to wake up the next morning and be that viral TikTok video of
yes.
Oh my God, can you hear this?
Exactly. I don't want that.
I want to walk out the door and have everybody down there going.
Yes. Yeah, no.
The slow clap.
I don't. So fitting it in when we can, when the kids are at school, is amazing. When they were home for quarantine, it sucked.
Yeah.
Quarantine sucks.
Totally. It really does.
Yeah.
Our daughter's going to be home because one of the kids at school got it in her class. And so they're just forcing certain kids to quarantine. And I love his schedule right now because it ebbs and flows. So there's a lot of times he's home and it's amazing. Like a nooner. Oh, I love a good midday. Because at night I'm exhausted.
Exactly.
But during the day I'm and mornings, I'm ready to go. That's my time of day. So now to have our daughter here the whole time, I'm oh my God, what can we give her to do? What can we do? Yeah, I'm not happy. Yeah. I'm not looking forward to the next 10 days.
You ever had that moment as parents where you realize why your parents let you watch Saturday morning cartoons in the basement as long as you wanted, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that memory's ruined?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always wonder why our generation are the ones who kind of are okay with going to lay in bed and just watch TV and just relax, because it's like that's what I grew up with. Was, care. This is Saturday morning. Go
Right.
downstairs.
Here's your cereal
watch
and your
TV,
juice box.
get into whatever you want. We're in bed all day, and you always wonder, they didn't have a TV in there. What the hell are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
Now you know.
We tell our kids all the time, Mommy and Daddy need to talk about something. It's about you guys. We're going to buy you something, so we need to talk about it. We need privacy.
She likes to bribe.
I
She's
lie.
a briber.
I lie all the
a
time.
liar and a briber.
I do.
That's fine. I support lying and bribing kids to have sex.
What's your code? Do you have a code? Like, we're going to go do taxes. What's your code?
Sock monkey.
Sock monkey is our code.
Sock monkey.
Yeah.
Is there actually a sock monkey involved?
No,
or
no.
We have several now, but there never was one involved.
No, I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why either. I don't remember, but it was just like a word that we knew would never be said for any other reason.
Right.
I couldn't fathom a reason why I would fit sock monkey into a normal
Into a
sentence.
conversation.
Yeah.
I love it.
The most
that there's like
obscure
a
word you could say, just so you know what we're talking about.
Do you guys have a good time of day that like you're best at?
Yeah, usually like afternoon, but that
Afternoon
almost
is good
never
too.
happens.
Yeah, it
So.
rarely happens. I think the most challenging thing for us about sex as parents is just being tired,
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
like all the
Exhaustion.
time, just
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
tired, because sex takes energy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing
Good
wrong with
sex.
lazy sex sometimes,
Yeah.
I fully support lazy sex, but even lazy
Me
sex
too.
takes some effort.
Right.
Yeah.
And really good sex takes energy, and
Mhm.
that's challenging.
Yeah.
Hold on. See, there she is. Speaking
boy.
of.
Oh, Parenthood. We expected that was going to
Here
happen.
we go.
Here we go. Hold on. Right here. Okay. We're doing something. Come on. I'll get the spider. Go anywhere.
Oh,
We'll edit this out later.
Yeah, we'll edit
Nah.
it out.
I'm still here. I can hear you.
Yeah. Mark, do you are you ready to go in the morning too? Is that like a viable option for you guys? Because I find often in relationships it's like opposite. One person's like a nighttime sex person, and one
Mhm.
person's a morning time sex person.
Yeah, I'm definitely not I like morning sex, but my body and my mind is not. It's like I'm not ready. I got to get my gut settled from all the bullshit that I snacked on the night before. I want to go take a shit. I want to, drink my first cup of coffee, and get my, I'm like mid morning, not first thing in the morning.
Yeah. Morning sex,
Like
he
brunch
said, I
sex,
have to
you know?
initiate.
Brunch sex.
Right. I
Yeah,
love
I'm
brunch
like
sex.
a brunch,
Morning sex, he says, I have to initiate. If I want it, I have to initiate. So that I totally get it. That's fine. I feel guilty about nighttime sex when we've flirted a little bit and have alluded to sex, but then like bedtime takes too long or he's off doing something. And then I have like a time limit.
Oh, she has a cutoff.
So there is a cutoff time from flirting to like, if my head is laying down, if my body's laying down, we're out. It's done.
Well, and I used to tell her, I used to make a rule where, you cannot talk about having sex later on, because every time she would bring it up and she would be all for it. And I swear she really believed in herself that this was going to happen.
Yes, we're doing
But
this.
I could literally tell you every single time she did that, nothing would happen. And so I told her, I said, you have to stop saying that we're going to have sex. You have to. You jinx it. Something happens. I'm not blaming you. I'm not mad at you. I'm just saying this is a fact.
Well, he started to feel rejected.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So
when I would initiate,
he came up with a rule for a period of time of if you want it, you have to initiate, because he felt like he was doing all the initiating and then I would kind of meet him halfway and then change my mind.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked him putting the power in my hands. It actually made me want it more.
Yeah.
I got so much shit for it from everybody, and they thought I was crazy. And it was almost instantaneous. As soon as I said, I am not initiating anymore, I don't want to feel like I'm trying to oversex you. I don't want to feel like I'm some sort of pervert. like I'm done.
Well, because
Like,
what's women's biggest complaint,
but
right? Like, oh, you roll over and your dick's on my back. Okay, great.
But the rule was that I put on it was I still have to be cute and flirty and lovey. Like, I'm not cold shouldering you. I'm still
Right.
being intimate, but just know so you don't feel uncomfortable and you can enjoy the intimacy, that whatever I'm doing with you at this moment will never lead to sex unless you initiate that.
It was
So
amazing.
it was almost instantaneous. I almost couldn't get her off of me after
Yeah.
literally after I said that. The day after, it was like, oh, 2-3 times today. What the heck's going on? And nobody believed me that it would work. And
Because he put the power of sex in my hands instead of, as a woman, feeling like, oh, he wants it again, or he's going to want it again. Or if we cuddle, he's going to want sex, and I don't want sex right now. So it was amazing for him to give me that power, and also to say, hey, I'm going to flirt with you and we'll be cute, but it doesn't have to lead to sex unless you initiate that, and that's okay. And I love it. Was so amazing. It was perfect for that time period of our lives to get over that again, another ebb.
That's a cool tool. I like it. It's a hard kind of balance because pressure is not sexy.
No.
And obligation is not sexy. And feeling like you have to obligate somebody or being obligated is not sexy. And it turns you off way more.
Yes.
Right.
But then, like, one person often wants sex more than the other. So it's hard to kind of let go of that.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yes.
It's kind of an trust, but then it could backfire, and it's just
right.
I don't know. Like,
I call it his man period, like the dreaded blue balls, like that, like semen backup. That's a real thing.
My friend came up with this thing called DSB, and it was my old roommate, and he could tell when I hadn't had sex for a while. He's like, Mark, you have DSB. I'm like, what is that? He goes, it's dreaded semen backup. He goes, you have to get the poison out, dude. Like, something's wrong with you.
So there are times I'm just like, let's just do this. Let's have a quickie. Let's get it out. And then, I'll promise in the next, few hours, few days, we'll have some sort of intimacy because I know it's something that we both want. It's just sometimes our schedules don't match up for it.
Yeah.
So do I feel obligated sometimes as a wife to like get rid of that DSB? Absolutely.
But I won't ask her for it or try to initiate it or push it. Like, I'll just, for those moments, there's porn.
I just know my pussy has power and I can change his attitude from being a fucking asshole to helping me with the dishes all of a sudden. What a great mood he's in. What happened?
It works.
It does work.
Yeah. That actually leads me to one of the main things I wanted to ask you guys about, but you kind of already answered it, Mark. But I wanted to know, how do you guys handle porn and masturbation as a couple? How do you feel about it? Because, and also like checking out other people. I was just having a conversation with a friend today about that, actually, because some couples, it's like, if somebody catches their partner masturbating, it's like they feel like they're cheated on, or like it's a big deal. Like, you can't masturbate. I don't want you to masturbate. But then
I don't want to
or
have
I don't
sex
want
with
you
you
looking
either.
at porn, or I don't want you looking at other people. I want you to only have eyes for me. I don't know. Like, where do you guys fall on that?
Well, if a woman said, I only want you to have eyes for me, then I say, well, you better have sex with me more often, because that's just, I enjoy sex. I enjoy giving pleasure. So
he masturbates.
Yeah.
I don't, because I can, it's easy to turn him on. It's like, he's always ready. So what he started to do when he wasn't getting it enough, or if we knew we weren't going to have sex that day, he's fine with masturbating and getting the poison out. I'll ask him about porn. I'll say, hey, did you touch yourself today? Because it actually turns me on. I'll ask him, did you watch porn? Did you not? What did you think about when you were doing it?
What did you watch?
What did you watch?
What was it about? Yeah.
I don't mind discussing it. It's not like he's doing it with another person to me. He'll say, I thought of you, or I looked something up similar to what, because I don't even know how deep you can get into this podcast, but I can ejaculate. I'm a female ejaculator. So he'll look up porn like that. Right. So and I thought about you. So never put porn in a situation of other outside of me. Does that make sense? And
I
other than
also being able to talk to her, and
Mm.
like you said, some women go crazy or other spouses go crazy when you look at other people, all this other stuff. With her, I can explain things to her like, okay, me rubbing one out real quick is not the same as me
being intimate with your
having an
partner.
orgasm with you.
Right.
Like this is literally I'm down there for 10, 15 minutes to get the shit out so I can go on with my day. It's almost as a guy, because it's so deep in our genetic code to procreate. It's like it's there, it gets sore, and it's almost like frustrating sometimes. You're like, fuck, all right, let's go do this real quick because I got shit to do today. You're almost frustrated with yourself. But being able to talk to her about it, let her know that it's not even close to the same type of feeling. It's
Yeah,
it's
it makes me
literally
feel
it's
good.
literally just a physical reaction of let's hurry up and get this done. And
Well, I also know if we are going to have sex later on that day, it'll be even a little bit longer because he knocked one out earlier. So it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
hey, good, you knocked one out. We got this. And then looking at other people, I've always admired women. I
Mhm.
understand what women go through to look the way that they do when they go all out. I don't have the money or the time to do that. So when he sees somebody or I see somebody,
Mhm.
I can appreciate beauty. And I don't hold that against him.
No,
Um,
she gets turned on by when those women
oh,
hit on me,
yes,
or
I love
like,
it.
or I'll go out and date. Like she'll tell me to go dance with them, and somebody would go up to her and ask her, like, "Aren't you mad that he's like dancing with her like that?" And she's like, "I just told him to go do it."
And a lot of times for me, I like it because if the woman knows that we're a couple,
Mhm.
it's non-threatening.
Oh
So she
yeah.
can have fun on a dance floor. She can have fun at a bar with him and know he wants nothing from her.
I'm that guy that can walk in a bar and go in the middle of a bachelorette party, and every single one of those women will treat me like their brother, and
Right.
we'll dance and have a good time and laugh. And
And there's nothing better than watching that and knowing like he's coming home with me.
Yeah.
I love that. He'll go out with his boys. I'll be like, how many numbers did you get?
no, I used to work in the film industry, and we'd have filming parties, and I had a couple, quite a few of the actresses were kind of hitting on me, and she used to take me to the store to get me dressed up before the party. And she's like,
He's
"We
like
gotta
my Ken
we
doll.
gotta make you look good." She goes, "I'm not gonna go because I don't want to spoil the fun, but I want to dress you up and get you as sexy as possible, and come home and tell me how many numbers you got."
But that's where trust comes in, right? And
Right.
I've never had a woman like that before.
in our relationship,
That's why I straight all the time, I guess.
but he knows the consequences to that
Mhm.
too. And we've had that open communication of there's consequences to every action.
Yep.
So at a certain point in time, I have to just trust, let you go, have fun,
Mhm.
but know that you're coming home to me every night. Every morning when I kiss him goodbye for work, I say,
Be,
just
be good.
be good, be good, and come home to me. That's all I
Yeah.
want.
Well, I kind of use this explanation or analogy, I guess, if that's the right word, is if you put a dog on a leash all the time, he's going to always try to run. But
Mhm.
if you take that dog off a leash, typically that dog will never leave the yard. It's one of those, I guess, it's a
Mm.
reaction like, oh, you're choking me. I'm trying to get away. Like, let me go. But with her, I don't feel that.
Yeah.
With some other relationships, I kind of did.
Right.
But
And if your man does stray, then there's a bigger issue. Then that's a
Mhm.
bigger problem. So you're not, something happened prior to that and you weren't communicating about it.
right.
And that's my biggest thing with him. Before you do anything, let's have the conversation first.
Communication.
Yeah. Communication.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I struggled with him masturbating at the beginning of our relationship.
Mhm.
Like a lot. Kind of was kind of one of my main struggles, I think, because I was
Mhm.
also struggling with knowing my own desirability outside of him. Like I kind of looked to him to make me feel desirable, and I really had to deal with that within myself, and I was aware that that's why it was bothering me. And he explained to me the same way, like it is different,
Mhm.
but it's also I don't know, since I started I kind of started masturbating more myself,
Mm-hmm.
and that helped me a lot because then it freed up our relationship to the point where we kind of both take responsibility for our own sexual fulfillment to a
Mm-hmm.
large degree, and then we can come to each other with our desire instead of our needs.
I
And
love
that
that.
Exactly. I like that a
really
lot.
has made a huge difference. And
Mhm.
then it was also really good that we dealt with it early on, because that was something that tool that we used quite a bit when our son was littler, and even still, because we didn't often have time together with energy. So
Right.
it would be more like, oh, I'll take him and you
Right.
have like self pleasure time, or
Right.
vice versa. And so we would
Exactly.
support each other in being sexually fulfilled on our own,
Right.
and not putting all the pressure on the time that we had together to sexually satisfy both.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
because then you just feel like like you said,
You're forcing it.
filling, you almost feel like you're just filling a need.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand with the porn thing, because you almost feel like, I'm not good enough. Why do you have to look at this? But then, it sounds like we both explained it
Right.
pretty
It's just a
clearly.
means to an end, really.
Yeah.
How old is your son now?
He's
4.
4.
Oh, you'll get it gets better.
You will get,
I
you will get
promise.
more energy.
Yeah.
It gets better. I think the kids were 4 and 5 when we came out of our baby coma.
5, 6, the fog started lifting a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because especially having 2 back to back, I had 3 older boys, and I had already done the diaper changing. I was done with that, and then we had 2 back to back because some psycho over here thought it would be a great idea.
I wanted to knock it out. I was an older mom to
Let's
begin
get it-
with. I was
let's
like,
get it
let's
done
just
now.
knock it out. They'll be best friends. They can keep each other company. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they hate each other, fight all the time.
Yeah.
She beats
Exactly.
the
How's that
crap out
going?
of them. I'm like, oh my God, what were we thinking?
So yeah, the fog started lifting about 5 or 6, and then.
But they're 9 and 10 now. It's a great age.
Yeah.
And as long as we are cognizant of, okay, we have to make time for each other,
Mhm.
and this relationship is number one. I think as a mom, we get too caught up in our kids. What do our kids want? And we have a tendency to push the marriage aside.
Yeah, that's a touchy subject, but it's one of those things where you have to be honest with yourself. And a lot of parents are afraid to say it, but your kids can't come first. They just can't. You have to put yourself first, then your relationship, and then your children. That way, you guys did with your self pleasure time. You're like, hey, just because you need 5 seconds of just let me breathe. Holy crap, So it's just it. Now I lost my train of thought. Damn it.
Oh, that's good.
But
Yeah.
I'm
Just
old.
being-
It's happening.
just putting the relationship first. Now
Yes,
that they're
putting
9 and 10 and more self-sufficient,
Mhm.
we have more time to put it first, if that makes sense.
And we always made sure that our relationship came first, because the kids will leave at a certain point in time.
Yeah, that when I realized nobody told me being a mom was to teach them to leave me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When I realized I think I cried for a week when I realized that my job was to teach them to be humans and leave me.
Yeah. Well, you see a lot of relationships ending when the kids leave the house.
Yeah.
And it's
Right.
usually those relationships where and I value those people who do that, but for me, it doesn't work. But they always put the kids first for everything. And then all of a sudden the kids are gone, and they're like, oh, I don't even know.
Hi, who are you?
I don't know
It's
who
nice
you
to meet
are.
you.
And I really don't like you.
Right.
Like, we just spent all this time together, and now we're going to separate because we lost each other.
You didn't grow
when we had the
together.
kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
that's
agree with you.
I know it's a hard one to hear, but for some people,
No, I feel like we live that way.
Yeah, we definitely
Like
do.
in my mind, that I agree with you that we put our relationship first, because our relationship is the bedrock of our family. And so if we're not happy,
Exactly.
our children aren't going to be happy.
Mhm.
And if we're not happy as individuals, then we're not going to be happy as a couple. And so the bedrock of our relationship is our individuality as well.
Mhm. And
And
people skip over that part. They don't hear that part sometimes.
yeah, it is a really tough balance though.
Yeah.
I wonder
What were you gonna
though.
say?
I think it's different for most people than it was for us because the nature of how our relationship started around parenting. So like, I mean, we started dating, there was that whole story, and then like 3 months later we were pregnant. So
You're like, oh shit.
we didn't have this, like, you know, all of our other friends, they dated and they got married and they had this relationship, the two of them, that they built for like, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 5 to 7, whatever, however many years, and then they decided to have kids.
Yeah.
And whereas we we had a very, very different start, and our relationship was much more like, okay, this is a thing, we have to make some decisions. And there was like a very quick prioritization of the decisions of, okay, first of all, we have to decide, are we having this kid? Second, we have to decide, are we going to co-parent this kid? Are we going to be in a relationship? You know,
Mhm.
so it was like our relationship was down the list. We'd already prioritized, you know, whether we were going to be parents and what we were going to do about being parents above the relationship. So by the
Right.
time we had our son,
Mhm.
then it was like, okay, we're past this. We still really like each other. We survived this thing.
Right.
Maybe we can build a relationship out of this. So all of a sudden, we really had no choice but to prioritize the relationship above everything. We had
Right.
never been able to really do that.
That's interesting. Yeah, like in a lot of relationships, it's like, oh, we've prioritized
They
us
take it for granted, right?
5 years,
Yeah.
and so
Mhm.
now we're gonna have
Yeah.
kids. But for us,
Yeah.
it's like we had to build our relationship while we were parenting,
Mhm.
and so
And
we made more of an effort maybe than most people do. To
I
Probably.
I get that
every
with
week and like,
Well, see, it's funny because like this is just normal for us, but
Yep.
we don't really know. You know, it's hard. People don't talk about this kind of stuff a lot. So,
Mhm.
but like I don't know how many conversations I've had with my friends where, especially now with the way the world's been the last year, I talk to them. I say, well, how are things for you? And like one of my friends told me recently that she was excited because she started having date nights with her husband, and they'd managed to have 2 date nights in 3 months. And she kind of made this flippant remark about it, you know, just kind of like not flippant, but just like kind of,
on the side.
yeah, a little side remark that was like, you know, we're not up to your guys' standards or anything. And I was like, I thought about that afterwards and was like, what did that mean? And because it didn't, like, we pretty early on, once our son was old enough that we could leave him with grandparents or a babysitter, like a lot of our friends had kids at the same time, and none of them used babysitters. They would
Ugh.
use family. None of them used a babysitter, and we were like the first chance we could find someone that we thought wouldn't kill our kid.
That's what we
Yes.
did.
We need to go.
Yes.
We're a phone call away. It's fine.
We had like a significant date night every Thursday night. We hardly missed any for a couple of years, I think.
Wow.
Basically, yeah. It's like it's just date night.
And
Thursday night is date night.
we've backed that off a little bit.
I mean,
Especially
COVID
now.
has made it actually more challenging than parenting.
Yeah, strange.
Right. Yes.
'Cause,
Well,
like,
I'd like to congratulate you guys for that, because that's a feat in itself.
It is.
So good for you. An applause for your relationship. That's awesome.
She just put it in the schedule, and then it happened.
I'm a scheduler.
You are a scheduler, yes.
That's our scheduler right there.
Yeah, I have to plan everything. I keep saying one day you'll get the babysitter and plan the date, but
One day I will.
I'll be shocked. I'll probably shit myself.
She-
I'll be like, oh my God, you planned something.
She hates surprises, so it's like
Whatever.
It's hard to keep anything from you.
Just because I know about it doesn't make it any less special.
True. Thursday night, put it on the calendar.
Writing that down weekly.
It definitely helps to book a babysitter or a parent, like
Yeah.
to have the babysitting lined up, and then it's like, well, we're tired, but we have babysitters, so let's do something relaxing. I
But
don't
that's why, even if it's like his mom takes the kids and we have the house to ourselves, it's fine. As long as we're not going to like separate corners while the kids are gone and we're doing something together, I don't care where it is.
Right.
In the
Yeah.
house, out of the house, as long as
Usually,
it's together.
if we know we have the house to ourselves, we won't go do anything.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, we're ordering in? Okay. We can have
Perfect.
everything delivered.
Everything is here. It's perfect.
Like, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Mark, you mentioned earlier about like talking about taboo things. Is there something in mind that you wanted to ask or talk about? Were you to want to ask or talk about?
Just that we talk more about things that people think are taboo. Kind of like you were talking about with the roadie, and some people might think that that's a little taboo, I guess.
Right.
But
Taboo is all in the eyes of the beholder.
Exactly. For me, I don't think any of it is. It's like, whatever.
I do want to figure out
things people do. So
right.
It's. I know for a fact we're not alone in what we talk about. Just some people are not willing to bring them up.
I want to also figure out what other firsts we really haven't had that he wants that's agreeable with me. That's a conversation that I want to have with him too. Because let's make a list. Let's make a bucket sex list.
See, the thing is, the hard part about
it'll
fantasy
be something to work towards
is that when you bring it to reality, sometimes it's not as good as you thought fantasy was
totally.
going to be.
But
like when her and I talk about having a threesome, I think I like keeping it at talking about it.
Yeah,
it's
sometimes it's better. Yeah,
more of a turn on, and then just certain things that maybe in my mind I feel like I want because I watched it on porn. When I bring it to fruition. Ooh, I can't say that word.
Fruition.
Like when I sit there and think, okay, I'm gonna go talk to my wife about it, and then I say it not out loud, but I say it in my head to myself. I'm like, no,
that just sounds douchey.
Yeah, it's my wife.
We've talked about wanting a threesome, mainly for the foreplay, so he can get a blowjob, and then we can go from there. I can kick her out, and we're good. Yeah. I had him download, was it Thrinder? And I just said, start looking at girls, start looking at unicorns that want a couple. It's impossible.
But
I was like, I have
she has
better taste.
Very good taste. I'll bring up a girl, and she's like, ugh. I'm like. Thought she was like at least a 7 or 8, and then she'll show me a girl, and I'm like, oh my god.
But just that conversation got both of us like heated, and it's been great. Yeah. So if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'd prefer to pay for it. That way, I can I
don't want to pay for it.
That's interesting. Yeah, because there's a dynamic there, right?
Mm-hmm.
People don't really think about. It's so funny because you hear so many couples that say oh, we've thought about the idea of having a threesome. They think about it. But the problem is that the number 3 in terms of sex is complicated because one person is presumably unattached, unless you're talking a throuple. And there's always this dynamic. And so you have a committed relationship, whether you're married or just monogamous or whatever, and you're trying to bring this third person. There's this weird dynamic. What is interesting is there are other combinations that are less complicated.
Yes. And that's why I think paying for it, it's easy to set rules. Oh, do you want to go deal with it? Your turn.
She's like, oh,
Dad, you're it. But I think with paying for it, it's easy to set rules. I would feel more comfortable, right? Because I'm in control of the situation. I feel like to get just a regular person at a bar,
right,
he'd probably have to lie and go out and seek it out. And then say, oh, by the way, I'm married and you're going to come home to my wife. I just don't feel like.
You don't want to do that.
I also don't want someone to be attached. I don't want somebody that lives near us. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there's too many factors with somebody who is just a normal everyday person, especially
she wants to be able to pay him to leave.
Yeah, I kind of do. Isn't that bad? Is that bad?
No, but this is my point is that, and that's one way to go.
Exactly.
It's just that my understanding is there are other solutions to that challenge that I wouldn't have thought of. That really work well for some people. For instance, a dynamic of 2 couples is interesting because both those couples are attached. Nobody's hanging around. And also there's no triangle. There's no third wheel thing going on there. And so apparently that can be quite successful for a lot of couples because it solves the whole jealousy problem of the third person. And the same effective thing can be achieved and everybody has their own lives to go back to, right?
Right.
And we've talked about that before.
A sex club or something like that where people are there to have a good time, but people
Mhm.
aren't like looking to create a long-term relationship.
Right.
They're not
Like-
like on the hunt for a relationship there.
Yeah,
right? They're there
Right.
because
They want to have some fun.
exactly.
And
We've looked up some swingers clubs, and we've looked up we're on Adult Friend Finder for a little bit, and just more or
He
less
doesn't
to
want
play
another
around.
penis near me.
It's
I don't really want one either, though.
It's such a double, and I tell her, I said, here's the issue. It's such the
It's a
fact
double
that I want a
standard.
threesome is there's such a huge double standard there, because I don't know. I don't know if I'm okay with it in the reverse.
But I also,
But
I don't know
means
that
I
I'd
can't
be.
ask her to be okay with it in the reverse. But
I don't know that I'd be comfortable with another penis.
well,
Honestly,
you had an issue with that before.
and I don't even know. Like, if we break up, I don't know if I'd ever date another man. I may actually just go start dating women. So honestly, the woman, is more for me than it really is for him.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
But
So-
she
dynamic, then yeah.
Exactly.
She had an issue with another penis when we first started dating.
I tried to have sex with another man. My vagina literally closed.
Yeah.
When he tried to put his penis in, I think I broke it. And he ran to the bathroom screaming. I just got dressed and ran out. I was like, I'm so sorry.
We weren't like we were openly dating, and we weren't together or anything, so it was kind of funny to hear the story. And she's like, well, yeah, I went on this date and you did something to me. I'm like, what are you talking about? She
My
goes,
vagina rejected
it
other
closed.
penises.
And I said, what do you mean it closed? She goes, I was ready. It just
You guys made a
slammed
secret
shut.
handshake, and this guy didn't know that.
He didn't know the
He
key.
didn't have the key. Well, our relationship started as booty calls. I didn't want kids. I didn't want to get married. I just wanted to have sex. For
Same
radio
here.
content, and I was writing a book at the time. I had lunch
Good
dates, dinner
research.
dates. It was.
I was supposed to be a
It was all storylines. There was all bits for the radio.
13
And
years later.
I always, if I liked you a little bit, or at least had some attraction, by second, third date, I wanted to have sex with you, because I didn't want to get emotionally invested if that was bad. Because I've had a lot of bad sex. And I didn't want to have to teach somebody. I just, sometimes literally the penis and the vagina fit together like a puzzle. And when I met him, it was like, oh my God, this works on a different level than I've ever had before.
Nice.
And I had little orgasms, but I would think in my head, people talk about these mind-blowing orgasms. And I was like, I never had that. And I kind of felt like I was climbing a ladder with each guy I had been with.
Yeah.
Like, we're getting closer to this, but we're just not there. And then with him, it was like, oh, I get it now. I totally understand what this is. And so I couldn't give that up. I was very selfish. And then I tricked him into marrying me and giving me babies. So here we are.
Yeah.
Pussy power. Pussy power.
Mm.
That's how strong pussy is.
She likes to think that, but I always say it's the reverse for me.
What's the reverse? You tricked me?
I have the power.
No.
I took
We
it all
fit
away.
together. Let's put it that
we,
way.
We fit together
It
very
fit
well.
perfectly.
You're just a power couple. How's that?
There you go.
Exactly.
Power penis and power vagina.
Going back to what you said about discovering if there's other firsts that you might want to explore together, there are apps. Like, we signed up for one a long time ago. It was a little tame. It was like pretty vanilla for us, but I'm sure you can find more interesting ones, where you each go through the app and you click like, would you be interested in this? Like a threesome, for example. Yes, no, maybe, yes, no. And then when you match a yes with a maybe, or, yes with a yes, then it'll tell you. And it'll be like,
Okay,
oh,
perfect.
look, you guys are both interested in this. You're both interested in bondage. You're both interested in this. And then that'll give you,
I'll look into it.
Sounds like a fun little game.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure there's a few apps out there.
Yeah, there's a few of them. I remember we did it, and we were like, we already knew all these things. We've talked about all these already.
Right. Right. That's how I feel like.
That's kind of how we are. We're like,
I don't know what's left, but we'll find out.
That's the other thing I find interesting about, because I think there's a lot of conversation people have about porn now, and we have mixed feelings about it too, because there's some kinds of porns that are obviously really healthy, and there's some that's like obviously questionable.
Right. Not okay.
Not blatantly, unhealthy.
Yes.
the ones that you click on,
Yeah.
Then you're like, oh shit, no.
Why is this a thing? But somebody likes it, obviously. But there's that angle that I think a lot of couples don't allow individual exploration of sex once they're in a relationship, especially once they get married, and they kind of think that like, okay, we've shut the door. This is my person I'm going to have sex with for the rest of my life, and they stop thinking about things that might interest them. And then especially you have kids, and then your life is consumed by that, and the amount of time and energy you have to think about those things is just like diminished more and more and more. And I think people get to a point where they're just like bored out of their tree, and they don't know how to make it more interesting, and they're not giving themselves sources of inspiration.
Right.
And sometimes I think, like, because I can definitely say it's been the case for me that there's sometimes I have like stumbled across something while like browsing through porn, and that I would have never searched it out in a million years. It wouldn't have occurred to me to search for that. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. And then all of a sudden we'll end up having a conversation about it later. Be like,
who's turned on by this? Oh, I'm turned on by that.
Perverts would be
like, well,
honey, well, I
But it
like
leads
that
to
you
great
bring that up.
conversation.
right, but that only works if porn isn't a secret between you, right? If
Exactly.
one person isn't secretly watching porn, because you can't go, like, I can't come to Phoebe and be like, so the other day I was just thinking about this, insert really weird fetish here.
Right.
Just randomly.
Why did that just enter your head? That didn't just pop into your head. How did that get there? And it's like, yeah, well, I was watching porn.
But Phoebe's at least open to the conversation, and she's not
Right.
going to hold it against you either. She's not going to be like, oh my God, you're a fucking perv. Don't do that again. Right? She'll have the conversation with you and at least play it out and see how comfortable she is with it.
Yeah, I think we do that. She doesn't really watch a whole lot of porn, right?
I don't need to. I may need to eventually, but you're very good at warming it up. And I'm learning how to make sure my brain is focused on the moment. I think as women, we have, what is it? All that tertiary shit, right? The doctor's appointments, all the other stuff that's in our brains.
It's not just women. That's me.
Okay, you too?
She's like, we're fine. And I'm like, I have a million other things in my brain.
What about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? What about this?
Oh God, I'm not that
You
way
left the
at
light
all.
on
I'm
in the
like,
closet.
Right. Oh God, yes.
That was a big
Constantly.
question.
So I have to like go
That's
through the
her all
whole
the way.
thing, make sure all like the boxes are checked, and then I can pay attention to you. So
And it's also not just porn. Like, people can bring different things to the table. You can get inspiration from different places too, like even your own imagination. Like, I use my imagination a lot more than Neil does.
Yeah.
He relies more on porn. I rely more on my imagination.
right.
But like, sometimes I think of really interesting things. Like, I went through a phase where I was like, Beauty and the Beast. And that was like all I thought of when I masturbated. I like thought of all
That's
these
amazing.
creative scenarios of Beauty and the Beast, or like reading erotica,
Remind
or
me to show you something later.
okay,
Anyway.
listening to podcasts,
Right.
honestly, or whatever it is.
right.
And so it's not just porn that can ignite your imagination, but if you if you're not interested in exploring that on your own, then you definitely won't have anything new to like bring. That's kind of what you were talking about, right?
Yeah. And the other thing too is, I think that like, because the internet has made, like, it's literally put porn in your pocket, and it's so accessible to a degree that's insane. People tend to default to that. And I often think that like, because like personally for me, it depends on like how much time I have and what's going on in my life. But like, that's actually not my go-to. I'm a much bigger fan of like reading erotic stories, or we have a lot of podcasts we listen to. Like, some of them are like erotic stories read out loud or narrated, stuff like that. And
Or true stories.
yeah, exactly. But those things I think are a lot more accessible to couples, because like video kind of traditional porn, it's also overly produced for men's consumption, and a lot of women don't like it. So like, we found a bunch of like feminist porn that we like to watch together, that is not like, and it's not like all story based, but it's just like not, men's POV, all of the things that you think men traditionally would want. It's much more interesting for both of us. And so sometimes if like, sometimes if we obviously want to have sex, but we're exhausted because we have kids and we're worn down for the day. And it's like, well, let's just try watching one of these together and see what happens. And invariably 90% of the time, it usually leads to sex. It may not be the best sex in the world, but it's like on a night where it was not going to lead to sex unless we did that. We were going to binge watch whatever Netflix show we were on in the morning and then hate each other.
Which I'm just saying, we also do that a lot.
We do that. Yeah.
Like we're not always good at being like, we have a free night. Let's somehow get ourselves in a sexy mood and have sex.
Oh no, we get it.
But every once in a while, we're on top of our game and we think about doing something like that.
I do like the thought of the erotica, because it kind of brings me back to like when I first started looking at Playboy or Hustler or stuff. Sometimes you'd start reading like the forums in the back. It was like that.
Playboy has great stories.
I mean there are sex stories, and you'd read those, and it was like that was more interesting to me than looking at the pictures.
Oh yeah,
so me too. I kind of lost it along the way, so I'm kind of glad you brought that up. That kind of
I know we'll be doing later.
And that was something we used to send each other, I used to send them to Phoebe more, but that was an interesting way to introduce, a new idea that we might want to try together, because it's often hard. I find sending like a video of something or like trying to show somebody a video of something, it's the context is weird, and like there's all these thoughts going on in your head, and it's kind of like a hard intro. It's like all of a sudden it's in your face. And whereas if I were to find a story about that thing, and it's somebody, it's not me, and it's not this really graphic representation, it's someone else's fantasy imagination of this thing, and it's fictional, and that is I found it's a much more effective and better way to introduce an idea. It's
like easier to process. And I agree with you with the porn, because I had a conversation with my older boys. I have a almost 22, a 19, and a 17-year-old as well. So like I talk to them, and I make sure that it's very important for them to know that, a lot of times what you see on these porn sites is not what women like. And I'm very about pleasing. I'm a pleaser. So I would much rather do something that's going to please her than do something that's going to please me, because pleasing her pleases me more than anything. So, it's like you said, it's overproduced, and it's so like, you try to find something to watch that you like because you're a normal person. I spend more time looking for like a normal offshoot porn than I do taking care of myself sometimes.
The Pornhub algorithm needs to learn from TikTok.
Yeah, no kidding.
TikTok's got the algorithm down. Pornhub needs to do better, or RedTube.
It's so interesting because I think we're in the middle of a bit of a revolution in porn now, because porn has kind of gone the way of social media lately. Where, Pornhub used to be all of the production porn from, the Valley in California and places like Miami, these hubs. And it was all produced, it was all meant to look a certain way. And it was all, there would be these trends and these particular fetishes, all step sister, stepmom, whatever. But now there's this, like, especially during the pandemic, I'm totally fascinated by the whole like OnlyFans phenomenon. And the fact that like Pornhub itself is set up, actually, like most people aren't aware of it, but it's actually set up technically as a social media sharing site. It's a YouTube version of porn. Even though lots of like professionally produced porn is on there, there's also lots of amateur couples. And all of a sudden you have all these couples that had no work, and we're like, well, we can make money if we make porn and sell it online. And so you have real couples that don't have any other agenda, and a lot of them don't show their faces, so they don't have the concern of like necessarily being found out or the social stigma of doing it. And here these real people are exploring their fantasies on camera in like really raw kind of amateur ways that are like, that was never accessible before. You couldn't find that.
Super hot.
And now it's everywhere constantly.
Also, Erica Lust is the one that we really, I just wanted to put a little shout out to her in there. Her like they're interesting. They don't always turn us on, but they're always very interesting.
We're always fascinated by them, if nothing less. Some of them are like, yeah, this really isn't my thing, but I'm watching because I need to figure out what's going on here.
Right.
Interesting.
I'm not sure if I like that yet, but I need to watch and see if I'm going to enjoy it later.
Yeah, and we really enjoy listening to podcasts, like sex story podcasts too, like Body Storytelling or Risk often has sexual stories. But anyway.
But you brought up something really interesting, Mark, in the context of your older boys, because like that's something like as parents, that's something I'm thinking about already, and we talk about fairly often, like how are we going to teach our kids about sex? And I've heard more than my fair share of horror stories about, you know, Gen Z kids that grew up with access to porn on their phones and who are like 19 years old, and they're actually, the kids are holding off longer having sex now because they have access to porn.
Right.
And so now they get in their first sexual relationship and they're 19 years old and they can't get turned on. It's like a real human in front of them is like way less interesting than porn. And so we've had a lot of conversations about like, how do we combat that? But, you know, it's fascinating. You brought up talking to your sons about that, because I'd kind of forgotten about that, but I thought like my introduction was similar to yours, where it's like, you know, we're old enough that the internet, I can remember the first early days of dial-up internet and being frustrated that I wasn't a boob guy.
Yeah.
It was like it loaded from the top down and it was like, come on, when are we going to get lower? And I had to wait way longer than the boob guys did.
I even remember the scrambled porn on the big giant satellite screen at
exactly.
your front. Like everybody's sleeping.
I think it's a boob.
I think it's a boob. Hurry up.
I think because of that, you know, our generation grew up like for me, it was because the internet was so slow. I found the text-based internet, you know, stories, they loaded real fast. You could get them. They were just, you know, text data. They came in almost instantaneously. And so that was my initial exposure. And the interesting thing about that was a lot of them, maybe even the majority, were written by women. And so when I think about like how I want our son to grow up, I mean, we have no idea what his sexual orientation is going to be, but you know, odds are he might be straight. So if he is, I want him to grow up understanding like the same way I learned about women's, you know, what was interesting for women in sex. Like I didn't watch porn and watch the fantasy version of he touches her and she comes.
Right.
You know, and he gets all of the amazing things performed on him whenever he wants. Like that's not the real world.
Exactly.
So I read the stories written from the women's perspective about what turned them on. And so by the time I was old enough to like start experiencing real sex, like I had the narrative of like hundreds of women in my head, and I had no idea for probably 10 years that wasn't normal. Like I had no idea.
I was taught from women how to please women at a young age, and I think I taught my boys that too, like how important it is to make sure that your partner is taken care of.
There's a book that I suggest to all men. It's called She Comes First. It's written by, I can't remember his name, Ian something, but it explains a woman's body, explains what a clitoris is, how to find it. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is what anal sex is. Like, it kind of lays it all out in a clinical yet also sexy way. So my fear is, because your son is 4, we've got a 9 and 10-year-old. My fear is it's all going to be virtual reality sex with bodysuits and no one's going to have human touch. Like, so how do we get involved in explaining that's not real, but also it's there, right? I can't stop them from choosing that over human touch. So that's my biggest, like, I don't know how to like navigate.
I'm hoping that just makes human touch that much more precious.
I hope so.
Yeah, I doubt it will ever replace it, but
it can't. There's no way.
But it brings in an interesting dynamic, because the first thought that popped into my head was, you know, like nothing's ever going to replace the real human connection of sex and 2 people in the same room. Like that's,
I hope so.
I can't fathom. But if you could have an approximation that people could use to explore the idea without any of the risks of not just, you know, transmission of diseases but like honestly, the real big risk that, you know, of pregnancy,
Right. Exactly.
Pregnancy.
You know about that one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There could
I'm
be
hoping there'll
both.
be like a virtual reality learning app. Let's learn about our bodies and
Yeah.
what we want.
There might
And
be
how to
real
talk
value
about
in it.
it.
Or even if you
I
think about it in
agree.
the context of like couples, like, you know, all of the things that you can't or you may not want to explore because maybe you want to have a monogamous relationship and you don't want to break that. But now all of a sudden there's this thing that maybe you could explore together, and it could be, you know, the interesting thing about the whole VR thing is that there's this third person perspective to it too. Like there's people that can observe the person in the VR scenario. And how interesting could that be for a couple?
VR threesome.
Yes.
To watch
Then that would bring
how
up-
your other significant others reacting to certain
Right.
things. That'd
Yeah.
be pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Well, because it's imagine seeing your spouse through different eyes.
Exactly.
And it's like, oh my God, I didn't know he would like that or whatever.
That would bring up different boundaries for different people
Sure,
about
right,
what
yeah, of course.
cheating consists of.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Was it real cheating or virtual cheating? Come on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Right. We are running out of time.
Oh, sorry.
Aw.
No, I could chat with you guys for a really long time, but I have 2 questions for you. And you can answer these 2 if you can think of an answer. What has been the most surprising thing you've learned about sex or sexuality as you've gotten older?
I think that you don't need all the things that you see in porn. You know, you realize with, you know, just the 2 of us and your imagination, you can really achieve some very, I think I've had some of my most intense orgasms when we have had nothing involved. It was just pure animalistic lust rate, like just beautiful, sweaty, wet sex. You know, I guess that's the way to
Say the
describe
question
it.
again.
Yeah.
Ask me the question again.
Yeah. What's been the most surprising thing you've learned about sex or sexuality as you've gotten older?
That the more comfortable I am with myself and my body and my confidence, and keeping communication open, the better sex is together.
Mhm.
I think early on, I always thought about the other person, the partner, like what do they want? I'm okay to be selfish and say, well, this is what I want. And it's just made it better, I think, because he's open to exploring that.
I'm the pleaser, so it's kind of it was perfect that you decided that when you met me. Thanks.
But yeah, I mean, the more comfortable I am in my own skin, the better it is.
Absolutely. And even if, I don't know, I think everybody's a pleaser in some ways too. Like we all like to have our partner feel really good and to rock their world. Like we love that, right? It makes us feel really good. And so when we learn about ourselves and our bodies, like you were saying, then we can help other people rock our world.
Exactly.
And that's amazing.
Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm just
say?
Yeah, I guess I would have to echo Rachel there, because it wasn't until, well, it really wasn't until you and I were together that I finally learned how to like accept and prioritize my own pleasure.
Yes.
Because I very much was just always so focused on the other person, and I got a lot of gratification out of that. But you know, I didn't learn until fairly recently in the last 5 or 6 years how to like relax and enjoy when somebody wanted to pleasure me and not feel like, when do I have to reciprocate? Wow. Yeah, I know. How did I make that till like my mid to late 30s before I figured that out?
you just blew my mind, because I think I'm in that same boat. Like I've never, I guess that's maybe why you haven't been able to make me climax because I've never relaxed enough to let somebody else please me that way.
It's a weird thing. And it doesn't,
I never thought about it that way.
It happened after a lot of conversations between us where I had to be like reassured on a regular basis that like, no, I actually want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, it was like, well, that was that whole the epic. What should we?
Epic Lovers?
Yeah, that thing we did.
Layla?
Yeah, we did this thing that as part of Phoebe's like training to become a sex coach, we did this course that the lady that runs the school teaches couples, and like the first night I think was this like 45-minute penis and pussy massage, and you had to train. So it was like 45 minutes of just, and it wasn't necessarily about like pleasure and achieving climax or whatever, but I literally never just laid there and let someone do something like that to me for 45 minutes before. And it was weird at first. And then I got past it and I was like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah. We've used the timer a few times. People always laugh at me when I'm like, the timer is a really great tool to bring to bed. They always think it's so funny, but like to be like, look, I'm just going to please you for 15 minutes. And you can please me for 15 minutes. So you can like relax that it's equal.
Yeah.
It's going to be equal. But like this
I like that idea.
Minutes, and you get like 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 45 minutes, depending on what you're doing. 45-minute blowjob would be probably not doable.
Holy crap.
I can't do that. I wouldn't be able to talk the next day.
This was just a massage. So it was just using your hand. So
right. No.
And it was like guided to, but yeah, to use the timer is actually.
I actually like that idea. I always think in my head, if I can last through a song, like if we have a song on or a movie, we usually always put Black Panther on. There's a scene, it's loud. I know because I haven't memorized by heart, but I try to at least last for a certain period of time. I get jaw fatigue, literally.
She is
it's so bad.
She's just a very lazy lover. That's all. That's the
I'll
easiest way to
it.
explain her.
There's also like other things you can explore. Though.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we'll can talk about it later if you want.
She has to have the energy for that.
Call me tomorrow, Phoebe.
Like using toys on him, or using your hands a lot, and like oil, like coconut oil, in your hands to give him like a massage. There's like a lot of fun things you can do with your hands.
I like her a lot.
Can I hire that out? See,
she would rather sit there in a chair and watch somebody else do that to me, and then turn around and then have me have her. Then, as long as I'm good, and then I can come and please her, then she's okay.
Totally.
I'm working on it.
I know you're
awesome.
I think the most surprising thing I've learned about sex or sexuality as I've gotten older is that, and this might sound weird to you or anybody listening, but that my sexuality is for me, like it's mine and it's for me first and foremost, because I grew up in a really repressed cult, and I don't know, I was just never taught anything about my sexuality. Was like repress, cover, deny.
Wrong. You're wrong for thinking about it.
Dirty, bad, you're going to go to hell, it's dangerous, like all these messages. And so to really own that for myself, learn about my sexuality, learn like self-pleasure, and really realize that it can be like a source of power and pleasure and creativity and fun and excitement and everything, aliveness for me. And then I can choose to share it.
Yes.
Well, that and also like, because I think one thing not that you're going to remember everything all the time, but one thing you skipped over in there that I would say is fairly important is that you were taught that it was actually the only thing it was for your future husband.
Right. Oh yeah.
And that you are not obligated to do any of those things for me. Like none of that is for me.
Yeah.
And that's,
Totally. Yeah. Because growing up, with that kind of teaching, we are taught that you don't have sexuality. It's not okay to have sexuality until you're married.
Right.
Then it's for your husband.
Right.
Not for you, but
never for you.
Yeah, that's horrible.
But then, like you were saying, I've never felt obligated by you to do anything.
Same.
Ever. Because I'm not.
And that's kind of how she knows she's not obligated. That's why I don't push for certain things. She knows I want certain things, but I'm not up her ass about it. Hey, hey.
He's poking me in the back again.
I
Sometimes,
just about
but
sprayed that choice of words.
But there's also trust that just because I don't feel like that's something I want, I trust that he's not going to go somewhere else to get it. That
Right.
there's enough to play with to
Mhm.
keep his interest,
Yeah.
that we can
Yeah.
continue on the road together.
I let her know it's not a deal breaker.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So my
I'm
last
still
question,
here.
my last question for you guys is, if you could go back and tell your teenage self one thing, like what do you wish you knew as a teenager about sex and sexuality?
Man. I would have to say quality over quantity.
Yep.
Mhm.
Pretty
Enough
much.
said.
Quality over quantity.
Mic drop.
You sent me the questions. What number is that?
Oh, is the
You
very
have it?
last one.
The very last one.
Okay.
The
Okay.
signature.
She wrote.
I was
She
like,
wrote some
I
notes
wrote
for
answers.
herself.
That I could go at my own pace. I have a lifetime of sex ahead of me, so why rush?
Right.
Because for me, I think I was 17 when I lost my virginity, but I forced it because everybody else around me, I went to Catholic school. Catholic school girls are the worst. Talk about repression. We bust out of that as quickly as possible. And just for me, all my friends were doing it. So I thought like, oh, I was behind. I wish I never pressured myself to catch up.
Yeah.
I can go on at my own pace. I have a lifetime ahead of me. Keep exploring your own body. You don't have to get someone else involved yet.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have just waited longer.
Totally.
I agree. I wish I would have waited longer too.
I feel like there's a story there, but we don't have time.
There is a story there. That'll be a part 2.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Really
You guys are
fun.
amazing.
Yeah, it was super fun. Cool.